have you ever thought that modern day problems were discussed by philosophers centuries ago? For example, Blaise Pascal, as pictured here, was a philosopher from the 17th century who talked about a very common problem in today's society: boredom and the addiction to entertainment. Back when slavery was still legal and socially accepted, the richest could afford to have the slaves do all their work for them, leaving them with all the time in the world to do nothing. But they didn't. Instead, they filled their free time to do nothing with things like hunting and playing the lute. So I thought to myself, as well as Blaise, why do we continue to find something to do? Well, it's because we both came to the same solution. It's because unconsciously, we want the very things we complain about. In this case, being busy all the time. Because as soon as we find some free time, we just find something else to fill it up with. TV, social media, friends, starting that one book you should have started a month ago. A diversion can only keep us entertained for so long and in such trivial ways. Soon it grows old and we look for something new to do. Paradoxically, a lack of boredom dooms us to never find a true meaning or satisfaction in our reality. Think about it. I'm going to ask you to raise your hand and keep them raised if you spend more than 30 minutes on your social medias a day. An hour? 2? 3? Well, for those of you who spend 3 hours on your social media, provided you have an 8-hour sleep schedule, that is nearly 20% of your conscious day, which means that about every 5 seconds, you get a notification from Snapchat. And the thing is, nowadays we have our own slaves, except they're not people, they're machines. May it be machines from the factory or, our phones. And by spending more and more time on our phones, we turn them into our masters. And that's not good, if you haven't caught on. And so, Pascal once said, "I have often said that the source of man's unhappiness is that he does not know how to stay in his room quietly." And he is very much correct. I recall an experience similar to the quote in which I had to deal with boredom, severe boredom. It was during a blackout and everything around me was dark. So I couldn't read, there was no Wi-Fi, that was a nightmare, and no battery in any of my non-Wi-Fi electronics. So I just lay there in my bed and I did literally nothing. It was all I could do. What can I say? It was very strange because, I was left with nothing but my thoughts. And they ate away at my sanity bit by bit. And I could just feel them going, "Do something. Hey, Augusto, do something." And everything around me also seemed to come to an absolute crawl and then stop. Doesn't that sound great? Well, looking back on it, it wasn't so bad, and there's no sarcasm in that phrase. It was an experience that taught me the true meaning of being bored. Because I was left with nothing but my thoughts, I started making connections between those thoughts and my feelings and my choices. So for example, why do people hate pineapple pizza so much? That stuff's great. Or a much more common issue nowadays, why do I like or dislike certain individual? It's because certain factor modifies certain constant. And Pascal also once said, "Man is obviously made for thinking. Therein lies all his dignity and his merit, and his whole duty is to think as he ought." Essentially, what he's telling us is that we should be out there thinking, connecting with each other, not connecting over the internet with a phone. So, in the same way we just use Pascal's work to analyze our addiction to entertainment, we can also reflect on many other issues in our modern society. For example, Seneca was the counselor for Emperor Nero in the 1st century, and he talked about things like anger and wrath, probably making him the first anger management therapist. And then there was Schopenhauer, who talked about mankind's natural evil and their greed, which is especially applicable to study things like terrorist attacks and stealing the last cookie off the counter. There's just so many things we can apply philosophy and the process of thought to, yet we refuse to because we think it's boring, not profitable, trash. Yet if we really try, and I mean put our hearts and souls into it, we can find uses for philosophy everywhere and apply them to situations in our day-to-day lives we never would have thought of in the first place. Thank you.